Parr World is the latest exhibition to be unveiled at Gateshead's Baltic Centre for Contemporary Art. Split across 2 floors, it focuses on the photographic work and collections of the magnum photographer Martin Parr.
This show started in Germany, it went to Holland and to Paris, and you have to understand my career is really much better built up in Europe than it would be in the UK. I wanted to bring the show to the UK, so we looked at London as a possibility, and I'd also been in discussion with the Baltic about doing a project, and then suddenly it struck me that this would be a good place to show it. I love the building, I think the location is fantastic. What I do like and what I am excited about is I think this show works on many levels, so I hope it'll be a popular show, because even if you don't take much from it, you can be entertained by the photographs, by the objects I've collected, and I like the idea of actually trying to make an art exhibition in a regional city like Newcastle, which has, I hope, a good accessibility to the public.
His new series of photographs is entitled Luxury, a collection of over 40 recent works on the different ways in which people display their wealth. Various locations across the world are depicted, including Newcastle's premier horse racing event, the Northumbrian Plate, the Millionaires' Fair in Moscow and the Dubai Art Fair.
I started this series Luxury about 5 or 6 years ago, and I wanted really to record wealthy people in the world, and I thought the best way to do that would be to go to events like art fairs, horse racing, fashion shows, where wealthy people show up. And over the years I've accumulated these pictures, and this exhibition started with the House de Kunst last May, and of course almost immediately after that show had finished we had the economic collapse. So now, if you like, I look back and it's like an epitaph to that sort of whole bubble period of this enormous time of growth and wealth and spending and borrowing. And so we can look at it quite differently now to what we might have looked at it when we were actually living through that experience.
Parr is known for his satirical documentation of British contemporary life, capturing a range of social groups, unmasking the banal and the offbeat with a wry look at class and wealth.
Traditionally, photographers go out and photograph poverty, but I'm doing, if you like, photographing wealth with the same spirit of inquiry, because one of the things that is messing the world up is we've all become too wealthy. And when all these other new economies, and I went to places like Russia, Dubai, the Middle East, China, India, when they all want and expect the same things that the wealthy of the West have, fridges, cars, etc., it's going to put substantial pressure on the world. So part of this is somewhat political, but I don't spell the politics out. It's there if people want to experience it. But I was definitely aware of this notion of I'm photographing wealth in the same way that people would normally photograph poverty.
The upstairs gallery features more than 150 of his prints, from some of the world's most famous and significant photographers and photographic books, as well as a range of objects from Parr's personal collection. A fabulous range of work by British photographers, including Tony Ray-Jones, Paul Graham and Richard Billingham, are also featured. There are also several with North East associations, including Chris Killip and Graham Smith.
One of the things I've done is make a very good collection of British documentary photography, and this is something I think that is still rather maligned in the UK. We don't quite love photography in the way they do in mainland Europe. So I've built up a really good collection of photographs, and of course many of these photographers worked in the North East, so it's very good, the likes of Chris Killip and Graham Smith, that we're showing the work back in the region. And then I've shown international photography as well, but the other thing I've done is to show my collection of objects. And I think of me collecting the objects in the way that I think of photography that I do as a form of collecting. You go out, you see the world, you take photographs, you try and make sense of it, you order it into a book and a show. So I think the idea of my own work and the collections that I'm showing are quite compatible.
One of Martin's I suppose, obsessions throughout his career has been Britishness and the kind of idiosyncrasies of British character. And I think that's been one of the key kind of themes in his kind of eye for collecting. And I think that's reflected in a lot of works you can see here. He's kind of very, very keen on, and indeed was hugely influenced by Tony Ray-Jones, who was one of the kind of founding fathers, if you like, of a kind of new documentary style, which began in Britain in the 1970s, around when Martin was beginning his career.
Housed in a fabulous landmark industrial building on the south bank of the River Tyne in Gateshead, Baltic is cited as being the biggest gallery of its kind in the world. Opened in 2002, it has suffered a succession of directorial changes and heated debates about its artistic policy. Its latest director is Godfrey Worsdale, who was poached from nearby Middlesbrough, where he was the founding director of the town's contemporary art gallery, Mima.
The important thing about Baltic is, first off, in 7 years, more than 3 million people have been through the door, and that's exposing a very, very large, more often than not new audience to very, very high quality visual culture, and that in itself is probably the fundamental objective of an organisation like this. But added to that, we've seen the Sage Gateshead next door, one of the finest concert halls in the world, arrive in Gateshead, the Millennium Bridge, in addition to the Angel of the North, which preceded the Baltic. These things have all come together to deliver a very tangible cultural offer that now drives tourists in their millions into this region. Those tourists drive the economy. There's a really important sense of pride in this place now. It's changed beyond all recognition, and all those things come together to continue the momentum and enthusiasm.
The Baltic has no permanent collection, providing instead an ever-changing calendar of exhibitions. To date, these have included works by Anish Kapoor, Anthony Gormley, Sam Taylor-Wood and Yoko Ono. This year, the names of Martin Parr, Damien Hirst with the loan of his Tate-owned 1992 work Pharmacy, and Malcolm McLaren can be added.
I was incredibly surprised when I came, because I thought, wow, such a building in the middle of this somewhat desolate and old town, and I thought the Baltic stood out.
McLaren's Shallow exhibition is a series of original musical paintings or cut-ups composed by him from appropriated clips lifted from film which depict people before sex. The footage is spliced, repeated and slowed down, resulting in a hypnotic, layered and provocative work.
The nature of the film was so distressed, was so corrupted, that when you slowed it down, they sort of became more and more painterly. It's the moment you have the epiphany. It was the moment I thought, this is it. I've discovered the moment now. All I've got to do is just don't fall into that horrible MTV trap of turning something into a pop video.
The work of local artists also features prominently. Fiona Crisp, a London-based artist who moved to the North East 6 years ago, makes large-scale photographic installations that explore the relationship between photography and architectural space.
My background is as a sculptor, it's not as a photographer. My approach to working with the photographic image has been thinking about it very much as an object in space that we as a viewer encounter. It was really the experience of going on a sort of tourist trail when I was living in Rome, and the incredible kind of sculptural presence of the catacombs that was a trigger for me wanting to try and explore how I could work in its environment photographically. That sort of set a precedent for the kind of spaces that I subsequently became interested in. I was living in London for about 15 years, really thinking about where else was a possibility to live and work. And really that coincided with the opening of the Baltic, and it meant that Newcastle and kind of Gateshead and the North East region was somewhere that you could live and still kind of operate on that international as well as national level.
The best thing a gallery like Baltic can do for those local artists is bring the best art in the world to their doorstep, because by exposing themselves to that kind of quality, their own practice will grow dramatically and improve dramatically and find itself in a world context. And really, in the 7 years that Baltic has been around, the quality of artists who are willing to stay in this region, and above and beyond that, the quality of artists who are willing to move to this region, is exceptional.